All right.
There you go.
And let's do it. Wait. That's not going to get me this time.
Oh, I lost you, Nick.
Oh. You did? Okay. We all back? We're all good?
I can't hear you, Nick.
You can't hear me? Adam. Hello. Nick, can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay,
oh, wait.
On Adam. There we go.
Yep, there you go. Sorry about that.
All good?
All accidentally pulled my headphones out.
Happens to the best of us. Okay. Hit the intro. What's up, and welcome to the Pamphlet on Kelly Digital. I'm Nick. Adam, how you doing?
I'm doing good. It sounds like I'm doing a little bit better than you are. Under the weather a bit?
A little bit. I sound like shit today, but, you know, got to persevere and keep pushing.
Yeah, that's right.
Actually, I get to come on a little later on this week to brag about my second victory in a row on Master Debate.
It'd be nice for you to break up right now. We can lose some connection.
Oh, you didn't hear me? I walked.
No. Unfortunately, I did.
Good episode, though. Go check it out. We debated the best superpowers to have. It turned into basically ways that we could take advantage of young ladies in the YouTube movement.
Yeah, what superpowers will make you the biggest perv or the best pervert ever, basically.
That's what it should have been called. But yeah, you can download that Kelly Digital on iTunes. We're on Spotify now too, as well. So that's a good one to get on. Happy about that. Also Stitcher and I think Google Play. I don't know. I put us on just about everything I possibly could. So
That's
all right,
good.
let's go ahead and hit the wire. Wait, let's not actually. Keeping the tradition alive. All right, we're going to start off the wire with actually introducing a guest, Nick Nash. How you doing today?
What's up? How you doing, boys?
Part of host of producer of the Nick Nash podcast, coming out of Wheeling. I worked with Nash in radio. What is that, like 10 years ago now?
It's been a while. Been a while, man. It's been a long time.
Good to see neither one of us have grown up at all.
I know, right?
Now we're both relegated to doing radio in our basements, but you know, it's good.
You got it.
I tell you what, though, I like what you're doing over there. You're doing more of like an interview show. I listened to the Joe Zellick episode, and very fascinating. His story's actually really good.
Yeah, Joe's a great guy. He was a good guest. And like you said, the show's kind of an interview thing. We just got started. We're 4 episodes in. And I'll go ahead and plug if you don't care. It's Nick Nash Podcast at .podbean.com. You can get me on Twitter at Nick Nash. I'm on Facebook, Instagram. We are it's able to download on Podbean, but we're also on iTunes. And like you said, I think Google Play? Maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of an interview thing. We haven't really fallen into our groove totally yet, but we're doing a lot of cool interviews. We had, like you said, Joe Zellick, a really cool local musician from the Ohio Valley area. Where are your listeners from? You got listeners all over the place? Who am I talking to?
Yeah, pretty much. There's a lot. There's the Ohio Valley is a good area because Adam's from the Ohio Valley, broadcaster.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So we got Joe that was on. He's a musician in the Wheeling area and a great guy. The first episode, a great guy by the name of Matt Welsh. He's a chef. He owns a restaurant in downtown Wheeling called the Vagabond Kitchen, and he's a traveler. He's been all over the world. Just a great dude, great interview. And I've also done shows with Paige Madden. She was Miss West Virginia back in 2014, and
Nice.
Also my good friend Anna Eli, who worked in West Virginia News down in Charleston, West Virginia there for a while too. So we're doing all kinds of cool stuff, having some great interviews, great conversations. Again, the Nick Nash podcast, you can get it at nicknashpodcast.podbean.com, also on iTunes and, again, Google Play.
Yeah. Now, I remember when you were doing the Sunday, it was the Sunday show on Eagle where it was like the Loud and Local.
Loud and Local, yeah.
Is that kind of where you got the idea for, not really the idea, but like the liking for the interview?
Sure. I mean, that was a good foundation for me. I started Loud and Local back in 2007 on Eagle 107.5 that we worked for back in the day. And in interviews, I did 13 years in radio, and interviews was kind of one of my things. I wanted to do more. I wanted to do long form. In radio, a lot of times you do a 10-minute interview and you got to cut it down to 3 to put it on the air.
Right.
And I always thought there's a lot more to an interview than that. So I wanted to do a long form thing, and that's kind of what we're doing. Yeah,
I mean, it's very much in like the Joe Rogan lean, where you just sit there and actually delve into issues. It's very good. I recommend everyone check it out.
Well, the problem is Joe gets high and does 4 hours, and I just can't do that.
No. Yeah, he has the PEDs, so that helps, right? Oh my. So you want to jump into some issues with us?
Let's do it. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, okay. Well, one of the main reasons why I wanted to forge on while being sick was because one of the greatest stories I've ever seen happened over this past week. Look, the fact is, when you look at these lawmakers that we have in the country and you think like, oh, they're conspiring against us, they're evil people. The truth is they're probably just really stupid. And that was proven exactly right on Sacha Baron Cohen's latest episode of what's it called? Who is America?
Who is America? Yeah, it's on Showtime.
Yeah, it was really something else. Jason Spencer, he's a lawmaker out of Georgia. He was. He's no longer after this episode. But here's just a little bit of that. Here's the first part that I wanted to play.
Because the Chinese are always taking selfie. Okay, convince him or her that you are Chinese. Go.
Konnichiwa, Red Dragon, Beijing, Hong Kong, I'm in Hong Kong. Sushi, I see the Red Dragon. Do you speak Chinese? Ho Chi Minh City?
All right, to set this up, I guess like he's going through some kind of like a terrorist prevention training program, or he thinks he is. Sacha Baron Cohen is in the worst makeup job you've ever seen. He looks like Borat in disguise.
Yeah, he's playing his character for this show. If you're not familiar, he used to have the Ali G show where he had a couple characters, 3 characters, I think. He made some movies about him. But in this show, he has this guy. He's like an Israeli terrorist prevention consultant type of guy. And there was another segment where he was getting congressmen to pitch arming like toddlers in preschool, and they all did it. Like, as school safety, they were like, it's just amazing how dumb these people are.
It really is. And like, that was the start of it. It gets a lot worse. I'm not going to play the part where he's like screaming the N-word over and over again.
Because he does do that.
Yeah. But I will get into this part right here, in which he tries to ward off a terrorist by chasing him with his ass and saying, I'm going to turn you into a homosexual.
No.
Right, he's taking his pants down now. This is an actual congressman.
Go.
America!
Good. One more time, but louder with America.
America!
Good. We say in the Mossad, not in the Mossad, if you want to win, you show some skin.
So the congressman's thinking about it, and he pulls his underwear down.
Now, try to touch me.
I'll touch you. I'll touch you with my buttocks. I'll touch you. You'll drop the gun. I'll touch it. USA!
Okay, stop. You have to remind me. If I touch you, you will become a homosexual. Okay? Now, try to touch me. Go. Go. Go.
He's chasing him around the room.
USA!
You show me your weapon. Go.
I'll touch you. I'll make you a homosexual. You drop that gun right now. You ain't it.
So yeah, vote for him in this upcoming November election.
I mean, he literally had his dick out. Like at the end of the interview, you can see his dick. I mean, but that's not really what got him in trouble. That's embarrassing. But what he said, like kind of unprompted, is just the N word over and over and over again to like some other prevention of not getting blown up by Muslim terrorists.
So do you know any politicians like that up in the Wheeling area there, Nick?
I can neither confirm nor deny that.
Right.
Those will be fun interviews. You should try to get some of those.
Yeah, right. Good ones to get. I tell you what, we had a good one up in the Avella area who thought it was a good idea to fake a bunch of Facebook accounts to comment on his policy ideas. The only thing is he used like names of like people that were actually dying.
Well, actually dead. Like people who got killed in car accidents and stuff. Yeah.
Like, I'll just go ahead and use that name.
Yeah. He also stole a bunch of money off his mother. And I mean, he was our representative for the area, you know. So this guy is a state congressional. He's basically a state congressman from Georgia, and man, that state's got to be. That's the guy making the laws for your state.
You got to be. Well, he also got into a little bit of trouble not too long ago because he told someone, it was a black politician who was very anti-Civil War monuments, that if you're going to be vocal about these monuments, you could go missing.
Oh,
probably not the best thing to say. Yeah.
No, that's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so a lot of the controversy when this first came out, even before the show aired, there was a lot of controversy from people saying, well, these guys, like, because I understand he got Sarah Palin at some point during the show, too.
Yeah.
There were a few other, like, big-name politicians, and they were saying, well, they were coerced. They were tricked. And, I thought about it. I thought long and hard, and I thought, I don't know that I could ever be tricked into taking my pants off and shouting the N-word.
Yeah.
Like, it's not really that much of a trick, is it?
Yeah, that's...
Okay, so he had makeup on, but you still said it. You still did it. So...
It looked like it came very natural to him, too, as he was screaming it.
No, I almost feel like he rehearsed that.
Yeah, like, probably in traffic on the freeway to get into that discussion. Somebody cut him off, and I'm sure that word just flew out his mouth with,
He's said it a few times before.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Seasoned vet.
Yeah, the show, actually, the old Ali G show, I remember, I mean, he did a ton of episodes as Borat and some other characters. I forget which one. I think it may have been Borat. I'm not really sure. It was one of the characters. They actually had Ron Paul. They set up like...
It was Bruno.
Bruno, yeah, the gay fashion designer.
Designer, yeah.
Yeah, they had him in a hotel room, and they set up cameras, and he like literally is trying to get Ron Paul to have sex with him. Yeah. I mean,
he didn't take too kindly to that either.
No, he didn't. But he actually handled it pretty well. But how do your people, because Ron Paul's not taking these calls and setting up his interviews, same with this guy, but
yeah,
they have assistants that are failing them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Ron Paul just got in trouble. Apparently, he hasn't hired anybody better. But he recently got in trouble because whoever handles his Twitter account tweeted out like some meme with like horribly, like
I saw that
racist and anti-Semitic depictions.
Oh god,
yeah, they were like those old like World War II era cartoons with like the over exaggerated racial overtones and stuff. It was horrible.
Yeah, yeah, definitely not something you want to tie yourself to.
No.
So yeah, he definitely needs a better vetting process when it comes to hiring, which probably means it's good that he never became president, even though I would have voted for him.
Yeah, that was your guy.
That was. So moving on to more of a pop culture thing, Demi Lovato back in the news this week, and not for being an anti-bullying advocate. Apparently she's all about that hey wrong.
Yeah.
Not good.
Well, I guess that she had issues before with drugs. I'm not I don't follow her at all, but But apparently, just recently, she fired like all of her management, all the people who got her into rehab like previously, and then she just went on a bender and OD'd. So, not good.
Yeah, normally when you get rid of the people that have like got you on the straight and narrow, that's like a bad sign.
Yeah,
those are the people you want to keep around.
Well, there was and she's released a new song, and in the song she like says something to her mom about not being sober anymore, which is kind of like, you know, it's like a foreshadowing of what happened, I guess. But
right.
Yeah, and Adam, like you said, I'm not a Demi Lovato fan. I haven't really followed her trajectory all that well. But I do understand that she did have some problems a number of years ago and got sober. She was sober for like 6 years, I think she said.
Wow.
You know, I feel bad for the girl. That song, I've never heard the song, but the sober song seemed to me like a little bit of a cry for help. Like she knew she was on this trajectory and maybe didn't want to be there. You know, I feel bad for anybody in that situation, especially I think I saw today she's 25 or something. She's young.
She's young.
So it sucks. I hope she gets the support she needs. That's a tough one.
Well, it's like Adam and I were talking before the show. Like, she knew she was on a bad path, or at least she's hanging out with people that know that they're in potentially very dangerous situations, because like the reason why she's not dead is because she was what'd you say that was again, Adam?
Oh, her friend had Narcan, which is something they give to them whenever they OD. So they had it on hand, like ready to go, just in case they made a mistake, I guess. I don't know.
But you know, that's never a good sign. Like when you have that lifeline just hanging around.
Yeah, just in case.
Yeah. Well, just in case your heart stops, we'll hit you with this. Don't worry.
Yeah. Well, there was like you said, she was sober for what, like 6 years, and she's only 25. They said that she was like really into like coke when she was in like doing a Disney show back in, like, I don't know if that's true, but that was a rumor, I guess. But that was when she was very young.
Yeah.
I believe it. You always hear these stories mostly about child actors, but child performers and artists. They get out to Hollywood. A lot of them come from, you know, wherever, some small town. They get out to Hollywood, and all of a sudden they go from being broke to being 16 and having millions of dollars at your disposal, and you're surrounded by a bunch of people that'll tell you yes every single time. It's a dangerous mix. It's a dangerous situation to be in. It's no wonder all these kids get smacked out.
Well, not to mention they're trying to drown out the casting couch stories that they had.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. There was a whole documentary about like young, like they were boys for the most part, but this was like kids going out to Hollywood, and their parents, because they saw like a chance at stardom, let these people, managers, do whatever they want. These kids all got like molested, and they were all on drugs, and they were very young, like 10, 12 years old when they got started in this. So I don't know. It's a dangerous place. People will do anything, and they'll let their kids do anything for fame, which is
sickening.
It's the most sickening part of the whole story.
That's a terrifying thing.
Yeah. So Facebook not doing too good this week. Over the last 2 days, it's lost like over 20% of its value, I think. I think they said Zuckerberg lost like, what was it, something?
Well, what like
$1 in like 5 minutes.
Yeah, basically the stock closed trading on Wednesday. It was at $2.17 a share, and on Thursday it went down to 174, which was a one-day drop of $120 billion. So that's like the largest market cap loss like of all time. Like, well, at least in modern history for one company. I didn't really look into what the cause of this was, but people are obviously a little leery of whatever it is that's going on over there. So,
yeah,
I don't use Facebook that much. I know we have stuff on the show, and I've checked it a little bit more than I normally do. But I think a lot of people have moved away from Facebook. Just typically, I think they'll use Instagram which is obviously owned by Facebook, I think. But I think people are kind of fed up with social media like that, you know, to some degree. So maybe it's hurting them on their ads or whatever.
I know there was like a 6-month period of I just didn't go on Facebook. The only reason why I got back on Facebook is because I refired up the podcast, and I was like, well,
Gotta hit some people up.
Exactly. Got to beg people to listen to us.
Yeah, that's the only reason I ever get on Facebook anymore is to promote the podcast. Use Twitter, Instagram for whatever else, mostly Twitter. But even then, I'm so kind of fed up with social media at this point. Like I sit there and scroll and scroll and scroll on Twitter, and I'm like, why the hell am I doing this? It's making me miserable. But as far as Facebook goes, here's the thing about guys like Mark Zuckerberg. I mean, congratulations, he's made $1 billion, more than $1 billion. He's got. That's great. But here's the thing. Guys like Mark Zuckerberg don't know how to run businesses. At some point, you got to realize Mark Zuckerberg was like a teenager or early 20s when he got in with the Facebook thing. He had absolutely no business experience, but they made him CEO anyway. So this guy's making decisions of one of the largest companies in the world. And is he qualified? I'm not sure he is.
Well,
but then again, where's the social media network that I invented? So
yeah, exactly.
True.
But, that's like when he went up on the Capitol Hill, though. Like he couldn't answer the question whether he was a publisher or a platform. Like that's a very important difference, and that's something that somebody that's a CEO of the company should know what he is.
Yeah, well, whenever you have the company, if it's not a platform and you're actually putting your spin on everything out to everyone, people don't like that. Because they end up figuring it out, and then they feel like you're swaying them. It's like watching a network news program. They're one side or they're another. On every topic they have. They're not they're not unbiased, I guess is my point.
Right.
So I think that bothers a lot of people. Plus, I mean, his stock probably is hurting because the government's probably cracking down on all those Russian ad buys that he was selling. So
yeah. Yeah, you know what? Say what you will about the Russians, but they paid their bills.
Yeah, better than NATO.
Real quick before we let you go, Nash, what'd you think of the Trump tapes? Do you think they're that big a deal?
The Cohen tape, the one that Cohen
recorded?
I actually haven't heard it yet. I read the transcript on it, but I haven't actually heard it. People are saying Cohen's a scumbag lawyer. It's like, who gives a shit on that front?
Yeah, exactly.
I will say this. I do not believe that is the only tape that's out there.
I don't believe. Yeah, and like that's the thing. Like, I don't think anybody, if you would tell anybody at any point throughout history that we've known Trump or known who Donald Trump is, if you would have said, "Hey, Donald Trump paid off a playmate so that like she wouldn't say that she slept with him," I think everybody would say, yeah. So, I mean, that's something we already know.
Yeah, literally nobody is surprised by that.
Right.
No. I mean, it's not like the guy has been married to the same woman his whole life. He's been married 3 times.
Not to mention, like, his second wife, he broke up with her by telling a magazine, like, I'm leaving my wife for Melania. He didn't even tell his wife. She found out when he left the magazine on her desk.
Yeah. That's ice cold, man. That's true. That's a thug life moment there, Nick.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, I listened to the tapes. Just they were playing the news. CNN had this breaking news story. They have these tapes and they played it. And I hate to say it, it's like I just was thinking it was more. Like it basically is not much. And then one of the biggest thing I was gonna say, if that's their like Cohen's big tape, his trump card, to use the word, but if that's his big tape, that's not a very powerful I mean, it's just not like, to me it doesn't really say anything surprising at all. And one of the biggest things that came out of it was that they just made fun of the fact that he asked for a Coke, which like that was news stories all over the place, that he said, "Oh, can I have a Coke, or get me a Coke please," to the secretary. I actually have a theory, because Pompeo was on in front of the Senate this week, and he's drinking a Diet Coke like so much. I feel like their administration is sponsored by Coca-Cola. Like everything has a Coke in it. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was funny.
Shit. But hey, make sure you check out the Nick Nash podcast. Like I said, the interviews are great. Really enjoyed it. Nash, thanks a lot for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. This is fun.
Yeah. We'll get you on again, and sometime when Adam's out of town, we'll get you on the debate show too, because that's
yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
You can take my spot anytime. I'm getting ripped off.
But yeah, check it out. It's on iTunes, Google Play, and where'd you say the other one was? Are you on Stitcher and Spotify as well?
We're not on Spotify at the moment, but I am looking into that one. We're on Podbean as well. You can download the Podbean app or go to the website. It's nicknashpodcast.podbean.com. So there you go.
Yep.
All right.
That's awesome.
Thanks a lot, Nick. Take care.
Thanks, guys. Have fun.
Yep. Later. All right. Let's see how I don't know how to get you out of here. So
just stay there now. Oh, we love. Well, actually, I like the long interview format. Like, I can't stand like segments on TV where they have someone on who has really good information to tell, to talk about, or a good story, and they like cut it up with commercials, and they like. So to have like that Joe Rogan type of or Howard Stern, whoever, when they have long durations to talk to people. Right. Yeah, it's way better than watching like Good Morning America or some shit like that. So
it absolutely is. You get way more information, and it lets the story play itself out and develop, which is something you don't get on the short interviews. And he does a very good job. Like, I suck in interviews, but he's pretty good at it.
Yeah, but I mean that's
my strong point.
Yeah, I mean he's obviously really good. I think everyone should check him out. That's awesome.
So yeah, the Trump tapes was the big story. The real big story, though, that didn't get the coverage, we might be getting close to a trade agreement with the EU.
Yeah. You know what's funny about this? Not to interrupt you, but because I was, you're watching the Pompeo Senate hearing. Yeah. So they're grilling him. And like one of the first things they're saying is, for anyone who doesn't know, he's a Secretary of State. And they're like, how dare the president criticize our NATO allies like that, and his, all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. And literally like 5 minutes later, they break into the Trump press conference, and he comes out, and he's basically like with the guy from the EU, and they're like, yeah, we came to a trade deal, and it's like essentially like we were getting rid of all tariffs.
Right.
Which is hilarious, because they were like, this is ridiculous. You guys are just driving business out with these this tariff talk, and you're ruining our relationships. And then boom, problem solved. Like, we said like 2 weeks ago, if we could just have free trade. Now, it's not the whole world, but if we could just have free trade, that'd be the ideal situation.
Oh, absolutely.
You must have listened to us.
Like, I hate the idea of like, because he campaigned on the idea of like raising tariffs on people. So I was very leery about his trade policy. Now, if his idea is to bully people into free trade, great. I could back you on that. If you just want to add tariffs, I'm not a fan of tariffs.
Yeah.
I mean, if he's strategically using them, which it looks like he is, and it looks like, the EU at least is blinking, great. Can he get China to blink? That'd be great.
Yeah, well, we'll see about China. I mean, China's obviously a different monster. It's kind of like all the issues that he has going on. He's taking them one at a time. He's dealing with North Korea. That's another thing Pompeo talked about. They grilled him about where's the progress. But, he said these things take time. We're working on it. We're at least having conversations to get them denuclearized. And that's the goal. And that's, both countries understanding, because there's a lot of rhetoric going around that North Korea doesn't understand what that means, like to be denuclearized. But he's saying it's going to take some time. These, this stuff, you don't snap your fingers, and 50-year war, that's what they looked at as is over and everything's solved. So, but yeah, it was, I mean, there was some other stuff from that Pompeo thing, but that the Trump stuff was good. I mean, basically, it was just great timing. I feel like they even planned it.
I wouldn't doubt it. I tell you, if there's one thing this president knows, it's timing for TV.
Yeah,
timing for the media. He knows how to drop shit.
Yeah, there were actually a lot of senators there. I'm not sure if they were involved in this trade talk with the EU. He thanked them for being there. So obviously, a lot of those senators weren't at the hearing. Pompeo is getting grilled by a lot of Democrat senators, and they're grilling him about trade, and it was just so funny. It was like 5 minutes later they come out and say that. he's basically saying you just have to have patience with some of these things, and it was like 5 minutes.
Well, the funny thing is like you do have to have patience, but everybody's working towards the next election, so like there's never like really a time for patience.
Yeah. Well, a lot of those hearings, congressional or Senate hearings, they're annoying because most of the time they don't even really, they have a witness there, like a guy who knows. I mean, that guy was a ex-CIA director. He's very, in the know of what's going on within the administration. And they could ask him a lot of things and try to get some insight for the people of this country. But they kind of just stand on their soapbox and preach to him and don't even really ask a question. That's why I always like Gowdy, because Gowdy would point out all these things that particular person was doing to screw things up or whatever they did while they're there. And then he would ask them, like, he put a question to them where they like have no choice but to almost plead the fifth and not answer it because they're just incriminating themselves.
Right.
So, yeah, but that's, well, the whole, yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's a shame that he's leaving because he's like one of these guys who actually has some brains where you have some other people like they're just so dumb. Maxine Waters. I mean, the things that she says, I don't know if you saw that clip. I hate to drone on about these people in our government, but she is talking about Trump and all she's doing is complaining about him. And there's a guy like behind her whispering and she's like not making any sense, like literally not making any sense whatsoever about Russia. And she said South Korea, but I think she meant North Korea. And it was just, it's embarrassing, really. These people are elected officials. That's why people need to go and research these candidates and try to like vote for people who have some brains in their head. So
right. I think I have that Maxine clip. Is this it?
I'll make you a homosexual. You drop that gun. USA.
That was it. I mean, who talks like that at a press conference?
Right.
Yeah, and that's another good example of how stupid politicians are. They get elected based off of name recognition. All they need to do is get in once, and they go to a district where it's primarily Democrat or Republican. They get in, and boom. They name recognition, just reelect. That word is very powerful.
Yeah, they just stay there forever.
Well, there's some other Trump stuff going on. Basically, he's in a huge Twitter war with Iran. Did you see that?
I did see that. I saw David Hogg, who is just the genius that, he comes from this area, so I guess we should be proud of him.
Not my area, so I can't say that I'm proud of him.
Yeah. I sent you the tweet. Well, okay, so what President Trump sent to Iran was, never ever threaten the United States again or you will suffer the consequences, likes of which few throughout history have ever suffered before. We are no longer a country that will stand for your demented words of violence and death, and be cautious. So David Hogg,
all caps, by the way.
Yeah, all caps, by the way, says, to the U.S. President Trump, and then tweets all that.
The same thing.
Bro, how do you not have Secret Service knocking on your door? Like, that is a direct threat. I mean, I kind of get what he's trying to say, but like, there's the word violence is in there. You can't like say to the president and then like violence like you've never seen before and stuff like that. Like, yeah,
like that's a threat.
Yeah,
but
that's a threat.
I mean, this kind of. I mean, did you watch? You may not have heard it or saw it, but Peter Schiff was on Joe Rogan this week. Peter Schiff's a real smart economic guy, and
I was thinking of Adam Schiff. My bad.
Oh, no, not Adam Schiff. He's a moron. But Peter Schiff is basically a financial guy. He predicted. He had been predicting the crash of 2008, and he actually predicts another recession will come unless some serious changes don't happen pretty quickly. But they were talking about voting, and Joe Rogan was like, "Well, how old do you think people should be to vote?" And he's like, 18 is the dumbest thing ever. The only reason they won that is said, "Oh well, if you can get drafted, you can vote. But he basically said, I don't know, maybe 30. 30 is a good age. I mean, he was being funny, but like, it's kind of true though. Like, whenever you're 18 to 20, 22, you're kind of like, you don't understand. Yeah, you don't understand. Most people, most kids, I don't want to generalize everyone because some people are smart. Most kids don't really understand like the whole thing about paying taxes and actually paying for things. And, you know, I don't know. So I thought it was funny.
I totally, especially after going through college, I totally believe nobody in college should be allowed to vote.
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely not. And they're just drunken morons.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's that whole. Well, that's why socialism is becoming big right now, because people look at it and they say, "Well, yeah, I want free education because now I have $70,000 worth of debt for my, queer dance theory degree." You know what I mean? And it's like, I can't get a job to pay for this, but you made a decision. And it's a shame because they probably made a decision to go to college when they were 16, 17, and they didn't really have a plan, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, they drill it into your head from the time you're like in preschool to the time you graduate high school.
Yeah.
You have to go to college or you're going to be a failure, is basically what they tell you.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it's
you go to college and you sink this ridiculous amount of money, and there's no jobs out there that's going to pay what the tuition is. That investment will probably never really pay off.
I mean, it's going to take a long time. It's quite an investment. I mean, and it depends on your degree. There's so many degrees that you could go to school for that end up not being relevant to any place. I mean, that's the truth. So, I mean, it's a shame because, it just, kids are saddled with tons of debt.
Yeah.
And they have to pay that for the next 20 years. And they're not getting really anything out of it. The only people who are benefiting are these schools.
Yeah.
And then the schools are pushing some liberal agenda to keep them in business. But in reality, they should be trying to take care of these kids and try to put them in a position to be successful. And they're not.
They don't give a shit. All these professors care about is keeping their cushy life. That's all they care about.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a shame because they're in a position where they could really make an impact on kids in their lives for the rest of their lives. But what they're doing is telling them dumb things, and the universities are charging them. Unfortunately, I mean, a book costs $500. Right. You know what I mean? Like, we had to buy books. Every book was $500. It was like, this is absolutely ridiculous.
And think about this. There's a lot of people out there right now trying to argue that athletes should be paid. You think school prices are high now. Wait till they have to start paying like football players salaries and shit.
Yeah, that's true.
The school's not going to eat that cost.
No.
It's going to pass it on to the science majors and the math majors and shit like that.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, look, in some schools, certain sports generate an income. But in reality, most schools are not making money off sports.
Right.
I mean, you look at big schools that have good basketball programs, good football programs, they may make some money, but most schools are not even profitable. And if they had to pay, well, what are you going to do? You got to pay the track kids too. They're student athletes. You got to pay the swim team. You got to pay everybody.
Right.
And the education apparently isn't enough payment. And that's a whole different can of worms we go down on that one. But I mean, I get it, but these kids aren't forced to do this. They're taking an opportunity to get an education and potentially, for some of them, move on to a professional career in sports. And this school is giving them that opportunity for basically a scholarship.
Right.
So if they don't want to.
Which equals out to like, especially at those schools, like close, like what, 100,000 a year?
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, these kids are getting taken care of better than what you think. I mean, let's say you're Alabama football player. I mean, they're feeding you. They're housing you. They're buying your books. They're paying your tuition. They're basically going to class for you and getting you a degree. If you really, I mean, that's what seem to have it at like North Carolina, I think. But
you get a stipend too, don't you? Like you get like a $500 a month stipend, I think.
Yeah, they do give them something, I believe. There's up to a number they can get.
Right.
So, but
and like I don't know about WVU, which is where you went, but at Edinburgh, $500 could last you a semester and a half.
Yeah,
easily.
I mean, Old German's only like $6 a case.
Right. Yeah, and you get 2 people on that. You're only paying $3 a case. Hell,
10, what a good time.
Exactly.
But I feel bad because the kids don't realize what they're getting into because they're sold this bill of goods from their teachers in high school all the way up through, and then they get out and the real world is not a pleasant place, especially the first couple years of your career. You're gonna have to eat shit, and for most kids, because you're at the bottom. And I know we all want to get out and we want to be on top right off the bat, but that's not how the world works. And sometimes it's a tough reality, unfortunately. So the kid, I mean, should they vote? Sure. But I think everyone should be a little bit more educated about who and what they're voting for. So you don't have a congressman who represents your state who's screaming the N-word on Showtime. We'll all be better off if you're a little bit more educated.
Drop that gun right now. You
I mean, should 18-year-olds vote? Yeah, but it just shouldn't count.
Just to make them happy. Well, I saw a news story. It was like millennials are sick and tired of these low means jobs that they're getting out of college. They're all quitting. That was the article. And it's kind of like, well, that's the jobs you get when you're entry level. Even if you didn't go to college, if you're entry level out of high school and you're working as anything, a welder, an iron worker, you're at the bottom of the totem pole. That's just how life is. I mean, but we're white, so we have white privilege. So obviously we didn't have to worry about that.
That's why we walked into $100,000 a year with a half-funded 401k.
That's right. Exactly. We don't have to worry about anything. We're whiteys.
Love my privilege. Oh, shit. So, guess we'll move into the what'd you watch this week segment. So I could go.
Yes, you can go lay down.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't really watch much TV, but there was one funny thing. It was kind of involving a movie. Mark Cuban basically tweeted out or made a comment about how we should all be ready for, or we should all be fearful of basically Terminator like robots killing us one day. So I thought it's kind of on the entertainment side. But hey, I mean, I guess he could be right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more likely than a lot of scenarios.
Yeah. I mean, eventually, apparently, AI is going to do all of our jobs. They might as well kill all of us, too.
Yeah, what are they going to need us for? We don't do any work.
I'll tell you one thing that I probably won't be watching. I didn't watch the first one, but Guardians of the Galaxy. Have you seen that?
I have not, but I've heard it's very good, but I hate the Marvel movies.
Well, their director is getting in a little trouble. He's actually gotten fired. Did you hear about that? He's made like...
I find this very aggravating because the reason why a lot of people that were like center left were coming over to the right were because we haven't gone batshit crazy, because we still believed in things like free speech and a joke is a joke. Like, dude, you could tell those were fucking jokes. They made a bunch of pedophile jokes. Who gives a shit?
Like a lot of them.
A lot of them. So what? They were tasteless. They were tasteless. They were horrible. There are people out there that have tasteless, horrible senses of humor. And he also disavowed those jokes unprompted back in 2012.
Yeah. Well, look, you look at like NFL draft picks. These guys have to like scrub their Twitters whenever they're like a top pick, because someone's going to go through and like read all your tweets. Like Baker Mayfield was drafted first overall, and the other guy who was up for it was the quarterback from Wyoming. And apparently he had like a racist tweet or two back when he was like 15 years old. And someone found it, probably Baker Mayfield's agent, put it out the day before the draft, and the guy did drop. I think he dropped 10 spots, which cost him money, but it got Baker into number one. I'm not saying that was what happened. This is just my theory, but I mean, you got kids; they shouldn't be allowed to vote, and they shouldn't be allowed on Twitter. But I mean, you say things. I mean, you're saying things. And I think his was a joke too, but it was like talking shit on LeBron James. And he's 15 years old, and then it comes back, and basically Cleveland's got the number one pick, so that didn't look too good for him either.
Yeah, right.
So, but now it would look great, right?
Yeah, I mean, seriously, they should have just held pat. They knew he wasn't coming back this year.
Yeah,
after this year. So
anyway, the director from Guardians of the Galaxy, he got fired. They're gonna make another movie. He got fired because of tweets he put out. There's a lot of them. I'm not going to read them, but they're basically all pedo jokes and stuff like that. So, which kind of in that Hollywood world, though, that's a salty subject because there's a lot of them getting in trouble for doing exactly what he's joking around about.
Hey, it's a salty subject, but at the same time, I mean, pedo jokes are pretty common jokes.
Pedo jokes are jokes too, Nick.
Yeah, pedo jokes matter. Yeah, so like there was a guy, there was a pedophile and a girl walking into the woods, and it's starting to get dark, and the girl looks up to the guy and says, "Boy, mister, these woods are scary." He is, "You think you're scared? I got to walk out of here alone."
That's awful. I've heard that before. It's so terrible.
That's pretty hacky.
But it goes right in line with that story. But yeah, have you been watching anything at all?
No, I tried watching a horror movie over the last weekend. I couldn't find anything that piqued my interest, so I watched Red Dragon again, and that's fantastic.
That is a good movie. I mean, Silence of the Lambs was on like 6 months ago. I saw it was on like HBO or something a lot, and I watched it. And like I hadn't seen it for a while. That's such a good movie. And then you think, man, they could never make like a like when that movie came out, you could never say, oh, we'll make a part 2 or something. But that movie, Red Dragon's really good. Yeah,
because Hannibal didn't stand up with through time, which is one that made not right after, but that was the initial sequel, and then Red Dragon was the prequel, and that one's every bit as good as Silence of the Lambs, I think.
Yeah, Silence of the Lambs is just a really good movie. It reminds me a lot of because it's kind of along this. It's a little bit later, but not really, of Mindhunter, like the time frame of the FBI and what they're like. It was basically after like Mindhunter, basically right after it, like what that would be, and it's a very interesting when you're dealing with all this new stuff, like these serial killers who do things that are totally outrageous. So yeah. And I would make a joke about transgender stuff because I saw a meme about that this week, but I'm not, because Buffalo Bill's like, transgender.
He was the first trans activist.
Yeah, that's what the meme said, basically.
Oh, really?
It was like a transgender in 1980s, activist, and that was like transgender now. It had a picture of like whatever they show now, and it was like, something about him being the foundation of it or something, what a good guy.
Would you
cutting people's
I'd fuck me.
Dude, that guy plays the creepiest role in the movie.
He really does.
He's also
the lotion in the basket.
He's also the voice on Joyride. Have you ever watched that movie?
Is he really?
He's the trucker voice, but they don't ever show his face, but he's Candy Cane. I don't know. My brother-in-law Jason is like so afraid of that movie. That movie freaks him out so bad. But that is a creepy guy. He just can play creepy well.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the ladies don't find his voice that appealing if those are the two roles he's known for.
Yeah, well, nowadays he'd be trendy.
Yeah, that's true. I did see one of the things I saw was the trailer for the new Aquaman movie, which I know you're excited for.
Oh, yeah.
Into our last master debate. Definitely check that out. Aquaman.
Is that why you pick swimming like a dolphin as one of your powers?
Yeah, it kind of played into it. It's not that I saw the it's not that I saw the trailer at that point because I watched it today. It was more Aquaman is really a terrible superhero. I mean, when you think about it. Yeah. And I thought
just go to land and none of his nothing can hurt you.
Yeah. But he was the best part. He was one of the best parts of the Justice League movie. So I'm actually kind of excited to see the movie. So it looks good, but really CG heavy. I know.
I mean, I've been meaning to watch TV, but like, man, it's just been so hard for me to watch TV because I've been busy, you know, and I'm like not. But in the winter, it's like all I do is sit around and watch Netflix. So yeah, I'm like,
we'll get better when it starts colder.
Yeah, right now it's good for you. It's hot as fuck out there. You probably don't want to be outside at all.
Fuck no, not at all. It's terrible. Went out to grill today and I was just sweating bullets.
Yeah, you don't even have to use any gas. You just throw your meat on a grill not lit and it just cooks.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, hopefully you feel better. What do you think you got there? Some sinus stuff?
Could be the AIDS. I'm not sure.
Most likely. Everyone in Florida has.
Yeah. Yeah, they I tell you what, the AIDS trucks that roll around here are really quite hilarious.
What do you mean AIDS trucks? Is that like a food truck? Is that what you call food trucks?
Yeah, they just hand out the AIDS. They scoop it out into a pond. Yeah. It's like, no, dude, I ordered the super AIDS.
Yeah, you got the monster now.
Like the one that made me laugh was Broward. It had Broward County, then it had the greater than sign, HIV. And like to me, I'm just thinking, well, you're really setting the bar low.
Yeah, for sure. Well, what do these vans do? They hand out, like, they're not handing out AIDS. They're handing out, like, what are they doing? I don't get it. They just drive around.
It's like, you know, prevention. We can beat this or whatever type shit.
Oh.
But like, nobody's, when they're coming up with the slogan, no one says Broward County, we're greater than AIDS. I would hope.
That's a good slogan.
Yeah, I mean, if you're worse than AIDS, you're just Detroit.
Yeah, you're doing bad. You're doing real bad. Yeah, that's good. I'll have to look out for some of those campaign ads out of there.
Yeah,
you know, I would think they're got to be really entertaining. So,
yeah, the other one, it wasn't AIDS, it was herpes. It was like Fort Lauderdale, ground zero for herpes or something. It was like it was all like painted in like caution tape.
Could you imagine like you're working and you apply for a job with the state or the county and you finally get the job and they're like, yeah, you even get a company car and it's like really good. I mean,
come home, you tell your wife, you're like, look, honey, I'm working for the county now. I'm gonna get benefits.
Yeah,
we can get that house we talked about.
Yeah, and they're giving me a company car and they're giving me a gas card. Next day you go pick up your company car and it's got Fort Lauderdale's ground zero for herpes, or whatever it says all over it. Like, what are they thinking down there?
Yeah. No, honey, it's for the county. It is.
Yeah. And they said I could even we could use it for personal use too, so we could take the kids to the beach in it.
Take it to church on Sunday. Hop out in the herpy mobile.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't really get it. I mean, they're just advertising AIDS, basically. They're not really. They're not like going around and trying to like. I wouldn't even know what you would do. Would you just throwing like herpes medicine out the window or something? I mean, what are they doing? It's like a parade instead of throwing candy. Yeah.
A bunch of people just hop in the truck and they all go hiking and mountain biking and stuff.
Oh yeah, there's commercials. You can do anything you want whenever you have that.
Once you get herpes, you become the most outdoorsy person on the planet.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty outdoorsy already, but I can't wait to get it so I could really like escape, you know, and have a good time in my life. So,
well, you know, once you get the herpes, nobody wants to have sex with you. So, like,
you have lots of time. You have lots of time on your hands.
Yeah, exactly.
It's true.
Hold on, Mike.
Oh, I lost
Okay,
you.
there we go.
Yeah.
No, I need to buy a new cord because this is really starting to piss me off. But whatever, let's get out of here.
Yeah. Sounds good. Rest up, and I'll see you on Tuesday for another debate. And people, please help us.
Yeah.
Pick a topic.
We need to come up with a topic that like brings a lot of good tag words involved to get people to search.
Yeah, I agree.
Our numbers are looking low this week. So if you haven't listened to it, get on there and listen to it. It's really funny.
People are over our top 10 list.
Yeah, they're like, all right, the novelty's worn off.
Yeah. Well, if you're sick and tired of listening to us, tune into the Nick Nash show. So that's a good that's a good interview show. So
that's a solid plug. Well done.
Yes.
Well done.
Working it right in there.
Yep. Well, that show and Kelly Digital all available on iTunes, Kelly Digital on Spotify now, and Stitcher and maybe Google Play.
Yeah, and YouTube. Go watch us.
YouTube. Yeah, you can go watch us too.
Probably see snot in my nose right now.
Yeah, I can see it. Got a nice little lamb leg dangling down there.
I gotta go drill it out.
Yeah. All right. Have a good one. Later.